welcome to the weekly highlights program on Azərbaycan Television with the major developments of the week. I'm Leyli Hüseynli. Now first, let's take a brief look at some of the top stories of this week. This week, President İlham received a delegation led by Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, Sergei Shoigu. President İlham gave an interview to the MGIMO Journal on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the birth of the rector of Moscow State Institute of International Relations, Anatoly Tarkunov. On August 24th, President İlham received a new video format by Gurbatov due to his appointment as head of Bielefeld District Executive Authority and Elmir Baghayev due to his appointment as head of Satly District Executive Authority.
Stressing that great trust had been placed in the newly appointed heads of executive power of Bielefeld and Satly regions, President İlham expressed confidence that they will show themselves averse of this trust. The head of state instructed first of all to properly analyze the situation in the regions, to identify existing gaps and shortcomings, to address the concerns of the population, and in the event of difficulties, approach to the central executive bodies, to presidential administration, the cabinet of ministers, and relevant ministries. People should feel your concern. You must visit all the villages, meet with the citizens, and familiarize with the existing problems and solve them. I've said this repeatedly. I want to say once again that if the existing problems in all villages of our country are resolved, then we can raise our work to a higher level, the head of state said. President İlham emphasized that a lot of work has been done in the regions entrusted to him by the state and at the expense of the state funds within the framework of the state programs for the socio-economic development of regions. All infrastructure projects are being successfully implemented in the regions, a significant part of which has already been implemented and completed. Now the fourth regional development program is being implemented. If the first program had not been adopted in 2004 and other programs in subsequent years, then today the regions of Azerbaijan would not develop like this. In all regions we have either summed up or are very close to completing major infrastructure projects. In particular, the issues with electricity in Bielefeld and Satly regions were resolved. Gasification is close to 100% and should be 100% in the coming years. Gasification should reach 100%, the head of state said. Noting that highways are being built and projects related to drinking water have been completed, President İlham said that this has always been a very serious problem for both Satly and Bielefeld regions. Urban residents are already supplied with drinking water that meets the standards of the World Health Organization. At the same time, these issues are being addressed in villages through modular treatment facilities and artesian wells, and this should be given special attention in the future, including irrigation issues. Because both last and this year, the drought created big problems for citizens, preventing the development of agriculture at a faster pace. Considering that Satly and Bielefeld are grain-growing and cotton-growing regions, of course the water factor is very important there, the head of state stressed. Emphasizing the effectiveness of the reforms carried out in agriculture, which shows an increase over a period of 7 months, the head of state once again reminded of the big problems in connection with the drought, stressed that the main goal in both grain growing and cotton growing is increasing productivity. Recalling that the average productivity in grain growing in the country this year exceeds 30 centners, President İlham said that in farms where modern technologies are applied and problems with irrigation are solved, this figure has reached 70 centners per hectare, which is comparable to the level of the most advanced countries of Europe. Noting the need for the right approach, compliance with all agricultural rules and solving irrigation issues, the head of state said that direct and indirect investments in the development of agriculture, including in infrastructure projects, have served to great development in recent years. Significant work has been done to ensure the transparency of subsidies allocated by the state and the implementation of reforms. President İlham noted the need to exercise serious control over subsidies allocated to farmers, emphasized the role of local executive bodies in this matter. The development of entrepreneurship is directly related to the overall development of the country. Our economy must maintain stability and strengthen. The non-oil sector must develop. President İlham said and recalled that until 2020 this development was rapid, but due to the pandemic there is a decline in all countries, including ours. But in our country, this indicator is a rather low level. In 7 months, the economic decline was 2.8%, which can be regarded as a great achievement, since in some developed countries, the decline reached 30%, in the European space up to 20%, in the Eurozone about 15%. But in the non-oil sector, in particular in industrial production, there is a development 13%, which for the current period is a historic achievement which we have achieved through the development of business, issued soft loans and responsibility of entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurial class that has already formed in Azerbaijan plays an important role in the development of the country's economy, and the executive authorities should support them. Noting with regret that in some regions entrepreneurs are oppressed, artificial obstacles are created for them, local executive bodies demand bribes and a share from them. The head of state said it is absolutely unacceptable and strict control in this matter is necessary. Government officials should support entrepreneurs, and they are only required to pay tax to the state. Along with this, entrepreneurs must help the poor. In Biləsuvar and Southern regions where internally displaced persons expelled from the native lands as a result of the military aggression of Armenia against Azerbaijan leave, all conditions were created for them, President İlham said, and recalled that the first settlement, which was opened with his participation as head of state in the Biləsuvar region, stressed that the newly appointed heads of district administration should also pay special attention to migrants, that the state always provides them with support. New houses and villages are being built. You should make efforts to make investments in the regions you managed to attract both local and foreign investors to the regions. No region can develop without investment. True, today most of the work is carried out at the expense of the state investments. However, the development of the private sector, of course, requires investments, the head of state said. President İlham said that during the pandemic, economic activity in general dropped very much and noted that it is impossible to predict when it will recover. Referring to agriculture, the head of state noted that the main hopes here are in local investors. Stressed that Azerbaijani entrepreneurs who invest tens of millions of dollars in investment in foreign countries first of all should think about the homeland, the people. Therefore, addressing Azerbaijani entrepreneurs, I say that under the current conditions, your funds should work for the benefit of the country's economy. President İlham said, adding that the business climate in Azerbaijan is improving from year to year, and we have achieved historic success in the framework of the Doing Business program. The head of state noted that the president and the government will continue to support entrepreneurs. Therefore, in the current conditions, it would be wrong to invest large funds in the foreign countries. However, this cannot be prohibited by legal means. It can only be controlled, and the relevant structures of the country must seriously monitor this. I believe that after these words, the private sector will invest more both in the economy of the country as a whole and in the regions, the head of state said, and noted that the heads of regional administration should create good conditions for entrepreneurs, and this in itself will lead to the creation of new jobs. Indeed, there is a need for this, since as a result of the pandemic, some people temporarily lost their jobs. Therefore, the state extended a helping hand to them. Noting that people who have lost their jobs, including those working in the informal sector, receive financial support from the state, President İlham stressed that the record number of paid jobs will be created this year. The number will reach 90,000. The criminal actions of all the recently arrested chief executives were almost the same. It's shameless to encourage on the money of the poor even with minimum wage. There should be a very strict control mechanism over this issue, both from the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection of the population and local executive bodies. This issue is under my control. The fight against corruption and bribery in Azerbaijan is not in words, but in deeds. The head of state said and noted that this fight is highly valued by the people. Speaking about the fact that there are cases of corruption and bribery in all countries, and the main issue is how the state and the government approach the issues, there is a zero tolerance for this phenomenon in Azerbaijan. President İlham recalled that not only heads of local executive bodies, but also heads of central executive structures, and the issues are widely covered. The public must be aware of all the work being done. The work of the newly appointed leaders will be judged correctly and fairly by the people. I am sure that you will work in such a way that people will be satisfied with your work. At the same time, you must earn the respect of people by your behavior, the head of state said. Expressing regret that in many cases government officials do not know how to behave, believing that they are provided with some privileges, seriously violating laws and traditional norms of behavior, President İlham said that when he is reported about such cases, they are immediately given appropriate notice, and these people either receive administrative punishment or are prosecuted. President İlham expressed confidence that all his instructions and recommendations will become the main principles in daily life of the new appointees, and soon the public atmosphere in Biləsuvar and Southern regions will improve, and the development of the regions will be ensured. The head of state congratulated the new heads of the executive power and wished them success. Expressing gratitude to the head of state for the high trust and attention shown to them, the head of executive power of Biləsuvar region, Faik Qurbatov, and the head of the executive power of Southern region, Elmir Bağırov, assured that they they would make every effort to justify the trust of the head of state.
Sağ olun, uğurlar arzularım sizə.
On August 25th, President İlham Aliyev received a delegation led by Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, Sergei Shoigu.
Уважаемый господин министр, рад вас снова видеть в Азербайджане.
Welcoming the delegation, President İlham Aliyev said he is glad to see Mr. Shoigu in Azerbaijan again and recalled the previous meeting that took place about a year ago. At that time, a meeting of the CIA's Council of Defense Ministers was held in Baku. The head of state stressed that on August 25th, the Sea Cup competition, which is part of the Army Games, opened in Baku. Azerbaijan traditionally participates in the Army Games and traditionally hosts the Sea Cup competition. The head of state underscored that these competitions will continue to serve to strengthen cooperation between all countries that participate in them. The Army Games are initiated by Russia and the main competitions are also held in Russia. Our tank troops take part in the tank biathlon. This is a good opportunity to meet and exchange views on issues related to the prospects for our cooperation in the military sphere, which is part of the very broad agenda of our interstate relations, said President Ilham Aliyev and recalled that recent phone conversation with Russian President Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. During the conversation, the sides discussed issues related to regional security and regional problems. The official visit of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Azerbaijan to the Russian Federation starts on August 26. The head of state expressed confidence that the discussions to be held between the heads of the foreign ministries will be useful where the current dynamics of relations as well as the prospects for the development of relations will be discussed. So the dialogue is ongoing and I'm glad that you're visiting us again. I wish you a pleasant stay in Azerbaijan, said President Ilham Aliyev.
Желаю вам приятного пребывания в Азербайджане.
Спасибо. Спасибо, уважаемый господин президент.
Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu thanked Mr. President for the warm welcome and said the visit to Azerbaijan is always a good opportunity to exchange views, discuss regional security issues, and of course bilateral military and military technical cooperation. Here we have something to report to our presidents on. There is something to discuss. Unfortunately, the pandemic that is spreading around the world leaves its mark on our cooperation plans too. But I'm sure that together with my colleague, the Minister of Defense of Azerbaijan, we will discuss how we can make up for lost time due to this pandemic and enter the schedule we have achieved to date, said the Russian Defense Minister. The Azerbaijani cruise started on August 24th. We looked at it. It didn't start badly, I mean tank biathlon. In other competitions, the Azerbaijani team is also doing quite well. I wish you every success. Of course, the coverage of these events in the world and exhibition that is taking place is quite broad, and I should note here that what we are showing at the exhibition is perhaps the most modern weaponry in Russia today. We will also discuss this with my colleague. I hope that there too we will have an opportunity to catch up. Regarding the rest, we cannot but rejoice in the fact that both Azerbaijan and the Azerbaijani team traditionally host competitions in the Caspian Sea. They are always held at the high level because there is both traditional hospitality and the organization of all these competitions, of course, is at the highest level. Previously, we had competitions in 10 countries, but the pandemic unfortunately narrowed them down to 5. Fortunately, so Azerbaijan remained in these 5. Thank you for taking the time and finding the opportunity to meet with us, said Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu.
Спасибо, что нашли время и возможность встретиться с нами.
On August 26, President Ilham Aliyev and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva attended the opening of the newly rebuilt dormitory in Buzovna settlement of Khazar district, new building of the comprehensive secondary school number 216 in Gala settlement, and the inauguration of the Zatar Bohozadeh culture house in Surkhani district of Baku.
The August 26th residents of the Buzovna village will be remembered for at least 2 reasons. Firstly, instead of the old residential building which had been in disrepair for many years, a new one was constructed and put into operation. And secondly, the top leadership of the country personally got acquainted with the work done. The new dormitory was built on the site of the 5-story hostel of the Bakazmash plant of AZTV Coast Transport Company, which is in emergency condition. On November 11, 2019, representatives of the Heydar Aliyev Foundation inspected the damaged building and met with the residents. It was determined that the building was in an emergency and dangerous for living condition. President İlham Aliyev and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva got acquainted with the new building of the Comprehensive Secondary School number 216 in Gala Settlement, Hazar District, Baku. The educational institution has 24 classrooms, a chemical, biological and physical laboratory, classrooms for labor and military training, a computer science room, sports and assembly halls, a library, a dressing room and canteen. At the 624-seat school, video surveillance systems and fiber optic internet were installed. President İlham Aliyev and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva also got acquainted with Sattar Behlulzade Cultural House in Surakhana District, Baku. The House of Culture, named after the world-famous brushmaster Sattar Behlulzade, is ready to host any modern cultural event. The infrastructure of the cultural center includes a concert and production hall for 612 spectators and a universal stage, rehearsal rooms for a dance ensemble and military orchestra, rooms for soloist rehearsals, a dressing room and other premises. Thus, today's opening ceremonies also contain the main components of socially oriented policy, infrastructure projects aimed at improving the living conditions of the population, improving the quality of education and cultural events. There is a principle in the investment policy of the Azerbaijani state that is above the challenges of the market economy, first improving the welfare of citizens. Normally, people are used to celebrate holidays, especially birthdays, with their family, and the head of state and the first lady on their birthdays are always surrounded by citizens. They accept the first congratulations and a wish from them. And this tradition continues. Celebrating her birthday on August 26, First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva was with the people again, next to representatives of vulnerable sectors of society, because every representative of a nation is also a member of the country's leadership family.
Russian Russia 24 and Russia 1 TV channels broadcast programs on the occasion of the 70th birthday anniversary of the rector of the Moscow State Institute of International Relations, Anatoly Tarkunov. The programs feature interviews of heads of state, public and political figures, diplomats and other graduates of Moscow State Institute of International Relations about the rector of the prestigious educational institution. The program also broadcast an interview with President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, who is a graduate of MGIMO.
Возглавил МГИМО в один из самых трудных периодов жизни нашего вуза.
He led MGIMO in one of the most difficult periods in the life of our university after the so-called perestroika. It was under his leadership that MGIMO quickly restored its authority and became one of the world's leading universities. I know that Anatoly Vasilyevich has invested a lot of effort, health and attention into making us all feel proud to be MGIMO graduates. To me, every graduate of MGIMO should be grateful to Anatoly Vasilyevich for what he has done for our university and what he is still doing today. When we held the first alumni forum, I noted that it was probably natural that the forum was being held in Azerbaijan. This was the case due to the alphabetical order of both our country's name and my own last name. However, I also said that this is probably due to the fact that I am still the only MGIMO graduate to be president and hope to see more such people. I am glad that this is already happening. We are already two. I am sure this is only a beginning. There will be more of us. I'm sure that the graduates of our alma mater, as they say, the students of Anatoly Vasilyevich, will take a worthy place in the life of our countries, because MGIMO unites practically the entire world. I'm sure that more MGIMO graduates will become presidents in the future. I sincerely congratulate Anatoly Vasilyevich again and wish him all the best. Keep it up.
Еще раз от всей души поздравляю Анатолия Васильевича. Желаю всего самого доброго. Так держать.
President İlham Aliyev gave an interview to Zimgimo Journal on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the birth of the rector of Moscow State Institute of International Relations, Anatoly Tarkunov. In the interview, the head of state said Moscow State Institute of International Relations is one of the leading universities not only in Russia, but also in the world, with deep and lasting traditions. Recognizing Anatoly Vasilyevich Tarkunov as a public figure and scientist, known not only in Russia but also far beyond its borders, President İlham Aliyev noted Tarkunov's great contributions to the formation and development of this institution of higher education as one of the most authoritative centers for training highly qualified diplomatic personnel. Remembering the times they used to work at the same department together with Anatoly Tarkunov, President İlham Aliyev characterized Tarkunov as highly qualified diplomat, scientist and leader, a very open, benevolent and pleasant person to communicate with. About 15 years of my life were associated with MGIMO. This includes studies, then a postgraduate course and then teaching. Those are unforgettable years of youth and formation, said the head of state, stressing that the knowledge he received at MGIMO helps him in his work to this day. President İlham Aliyev mentioned the first forum of graduates of this university, which took place by his initiative in Baku several years ago. He expressed that policy of Heydar Aliyev continues in our country today, thanks to which Azerbaijan has emerged as an independent state, taken a worthy place on the world map, established public and political stability in the country, created a solid foundation for large-scale transformations, attracted billions of foreign investments, identified the main directions of domestic and foreign policy, and that Azerbaijan is successfully developing in all areas now. Stating that Azerbaijan today is recognized as one of the world's centers of multiculturalism, as country in geographical, cultural and political bridge between Europe and Asia, President İlham Aliyev informed about our country hosting prestigious events on a variety of worldwide topics, our country being the initiator of numerous vital international events regarding COVID-19, and talked about international solidarity which our country displayed during the pandemic. The head of state reminded that he had to leave the institute where he studied, completed a graduate school and worked for about 15 years at the very beginning of the 1990s. The reason for this was that his father, Heydar Aliyev, took a principled position against the erroneous domestic and foreign policy of the then leadership of the USSR. President İlham Aliyev emphasized that the nationwide leader was persecuted. A frenzied campaign of libel and slander was waged against him in the Soviet media. Exactly for that reason, the MGIMO management informed that Heydar Aliyev's son cannot teach at this university. President İlham Aliyev noted that in that difficult time, Anatoly Vasilyevich always provided him with moral support. Pointing out that Leyla Aliyeva has also graduated from Moscow State Institute of International Relations, informed that Leyla Aliyeva is the president of the Azerbaijan MGIMO Club and is the chairperson of the Council of Azerbaijan Alumni, that in 2015, in recognition of her contributions to the strengthening of friendship and cooperation with the Russian Federation, the development of economic ties, the preservation and popularization of the Russian language and culture abroad, by decree of the President of Russia, Leyla Aliyeva was awarded the Order of Pushkin, and the high award was presented to her personally by Vladimir Putin. The head of state stressed that for the projects implemented by the Heydar Aliyev Foundation, of which Leyla Aliyeva is the vice president, in this Russian region she was awarded the Order of Merit for the Astrakhan region. In the same 2013, by an order of the Patriarch of Moscow, All Russia Kirill, she was also awarded the Order of the Holy, equal to the Apostles Princess Olga of third degree. In conclusion, President İlham Aliyev conveyed his best wishes on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of Anatoly Tarkunov and 75th anniversary of MGIMO. Assistant to the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, head of the Foreign Policy Department of the Presidential Administration, Hikmet Hacıyev, made a statement saying that Armenia participates in the conflict in Syria and has personnel in this country. Furthermore, Armenia deals with black trade of the purchase of weapons from Syria. Quote, "The recent armament of Armenia seriously concerns the Azerbaijani white public and state. The transportation of cargoes from Russia is being implemented in various directions. The explanation of the Russian side is unsatisfactory, and Azerbaijan expects that the clarity would be lent to the grounds on which the intensive armament of Armenia is continued. Armenia showed during all these incidents that it continues its occupational policy. The response saying as if the aircrafts were carrying construction materials is not satisfactory. The construction materials might also be transported through other routes. Increase of flights to Armenia from the Syrian direction, carriage of weapons can also be observed." End of quote. That was all for the week. Thank you for being with us and see you next time. Goodbye.